guys. I am not Ethan. I am Autumn. I host the YouTube channel Notes from Autumn, but I also now host this show, Ask an Atheist, and I am here with Helen Greene. Helen, how are you today?
Good. How are you doing, Autumn?
Great. Helen is an ambassador for recovering from religion. And so I wanted to start off today's show by asking you how you got involved with recovering from religion and what your main goals with that organization are.
Oh, goodness. I think, it really started with the pandemic because I had lost my job in March of 2020 due to the pandemic. And I was sitting around the house and, there's only so much house cleaning and home renovations you can do and stuff like that. And I've always been the type of person that I've always wanted to give back to people and get involved in community and stuff like that. So I was watching a lot of Atheist Community of Austin content and stuff like that. And I saw Dr. Ray on there and talking about recovering from religion and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what, I could probably get involved with that organization. And so I think it was, I want to say August of September of last year that I put in an application. I got interviewed by Anthony Magnabosco. He actually did my interview. Yeah, it was really strange because I didn't know who he was until after I did my interview. And then I got introduced to street epistemology through some other people that were involved with RFR and the ACA. And I was like, oh, and I put the two together. So that's how I kind of ended up with RFR. And ever since then, it's kind of taken off. And I really love that the work that we do there. I've met some really incredible, wonderful people. And then a couple months ago, they were looking for new ambassadors, and I'm a very social, chit-chatty kind of person. So I was like, I can do that too. So, I started off as an agent, and then I basically progressed into doing other areas with RFR as well.
Nice. Oh, and just for our audience members who aren't familiar, so Anthony Magnabosco is a huge advocate for street epistemology, something that you mentioned. Why don't you tell our audience what street epistemology is and how you use it to converse with others?
So street epistemology is basically a very undebatable approach into epistemology. Is how do we know what we know? And really dissecting how we come to conclusions and how confident we are in something being true. So there is definitely a lot of SE that we use as an agent, because a lot of the people that come to us are starting to question, and we don't try to deconvert anyone. That's not our goal. We're just trying to help them on their journey. So, if they're presented with new information that contradicts, everything they've been taught inside their religion, they're hitting that cognitive dissonance that they're trying to work out. And we just offer a lot of SE techniques, and offer other points of view and a lot of resources, and just kind of helping them understand how they're coming to conclusions, and that it is okay to doubt and to kind of think about, the things that you've been taught and stuff, so you can dissect it. So that's a big thing with Anthony. When I started watching his videos, that really helped me as an agent, because of his approach and the way that he talks to people is very non-threatening. He doesn't pass any judgment on people, and that's a big thing we do at Recovering from Religion. Is that if we get if somebody chats or calls in, we don't say you need to think like we do and you need to be an atheist and blah blah blah. We're just where you are in your journey, let me help you work those problems out. And then other people call in, asking they're atheists and how did they come out to their family and friends, and work through those issues. Some people, we might get a kid that's queer and trying to work out, how do I tell my family, and how do I deal with these emotions that I'm having around my sexuality or my gender? We talk to those people too. So, it's a whole broad span of topics that we cover at RFR, and the SC component really helps us because we're trying to give them the tools that they kind of already know the answer. And, if you give them a way to, logic and reason it out and ask them the right questions and offer resources to them, they will kind of come to that gradual, like, oh, I can, they'll get like aha moments and things will start to click for them. And that's the goal that we're trying to help them to start that reasoning process.
Yeah, like almost like talk therapy, but a little bit more on the like philosophical side because you're doing epistemology, right? So it's like we're working through. Sometimes I feel like it either takes the power out of something or helps you see things a different way just to say things out loud. So that makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned that Anthony Magnabosco's YouTube channel was like a great resource for you. Is there any other resources that you've used in this process of learning how to help people who are either deconstructing their religion or they've just technically deconstructed out of something, and now they're trying to maybe reconstruct to something else, like find like new meaning or new pathways? Like, what are some resources that you found that are helpful besides street epistemology, maybe?
It's really amazing because there is so many resources out in the community now. There's so many resources on just like, YouTuber activists, that are out there. We have like a lot of topics done by like Holy Kool-Aid or done by, genetically modified skeptic or, Matt Dillahunty or Seth Andrews, all these people that are out there that cover different topics about their own deconversion process. So we'll offer those. We also offer a whole bunch of books and other podcasts. I can't think of them all off the top of my head right now, because usually if I'm in a chat, I just go over to the library and I'm like, oh, this relates to the topic we're having, so I'll pop those in and stuff like that. So
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we have a huge library. We have a couple library curators at RFR that do a lot of that curating for us, and a lot of the volunteers will see, like I saw one on a Game of Thrones YouTube channel, but it was a really good deconstruction of how Eve was right, and using the and how symbolism has infiltrated so much of religion, and how that Eve was right to eat the fruit because she gained knowledge, she gained awareness of the self, and it was by someone that even though he does mostly Game of Thrones content, he deconverted, and he was talking and using that mythology and walking through that mythology in a logical way, and how we use these symbols and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's a good, that would be a really good topic for people that are dealing with original sin, and to throw that out there. So, so there's a whole bunch of different things that we use that relate to a lot of the issues that people come to us with. And we kind of all brainstorm together, like, okay, this seemed like I related to this, or this seems like really good for our clients that come to RFR, and we just offer a lot of those resources.
Yeah, because it's such a process. So I feel like it would be helpful to see other people who are doing or have done the process of deconstruction. I've had similar experiences of people telling me that my content is helpful in that way. And you mentioned Drew. Drew, specifically genetically modified skeptic, was helpful for me because for myself, I have been surrounded by friends and family who are either Christian or they're never religious, but I hadn't known somebody who like really deconstructed, and it felt so unique to me. Or if I have known somebody who's done it, they're not. Now I found people who are open about it, but back when, years ago, I didn't know anybody who had gone through this process, and I thought I was like completely alone in it. So finding that content was very helpful in letting me know that I wasn't alone, because I think there's there's a big difference, and tell me if you agree with this or disagree with this, but I feel like there's a big difference between watching atheist content where it's like debates, kind of like what you mentioned, you don't do debates with epistemology. There's a difference between watching the atheist debate the Christian and watching deconstruction content, because sometimes I feel like, and again, tell me if you disagree or not, but I feel like when I would watch atheist debate content as a Christian or as a newly deconverted ex-Christian, I guess I should say, it's like the atheist, I didn't ever see the atheist as a person who previously was Christian or who had gone through deconstruction. You see them as this, like, you know, I don't know, you see them in a different way. Like they've always been atheists or they've always thought this way. They have this like confidence about them. Do you agree with that? Or
like for me, I'm not a debater. I don't want to debate. I'm not well versed in philosophy anyway, so it's not like I've done some study on it and stuff like that, but it's not my bag. Like, and there's definitely, you know, people out there that are better at debating, like people in the religious community, to have those conversations, and I leave that to them. I'm like, yep, that's your job. You know, and I understand that content helps a lot of people, because for someone that's in doubt, you know, them having those debates, it can be good, because when I started, you know, kind of moving out of that magical thinking process and how to reason, those debates were actually helpful, because I was just like, it helped me go, like, even though like I don't debate, but hearing those conversations made me go, you know, that doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, how do I know this is true? You know, but the thing with like the street epistemology and stuff like that, it's a little softer, because what you want to do, you want to get the person to change their own mind. You know, when you're debating, you're trying to, you know, almost win. You know, when you did debate class, you know, when you're in high school or whatever, you were trying to bring the better debate, so you got a better grade. You know, and it kind of feels a little bit like a competition. But when you're doing what we do at, like, you know, recovering, or even if you're just talking to someone about like gun rights, you know, when it's a controversial topic, if you come in highly emotional and come in with that debate attitude, you might run the risk of the person digging in their heels and wanting not to change their mind. And and I find that when you're just posing questions and getting them to think about it, and, you know, wondering where their confidence is, and kind of getting engaged for how committed they are and that sort of thing, and offering other viewpoints, it helps them to kind of logic themselves out and on their own. Because I find that if I went into a debate with you and we were having a discussion on a topic, and I wanted you to come over to my side, and I got adversarial with you, or said that you were unintelligent, you know, or you believe in superstitious things, you're an idiot, those sort of things, and you got that, I don't have to say, but you got that impression, you wouldn't change your mind. You'd be like, this person is insulting, they think I'm dumb, why should I change my mind? And I feel like, you know, the way that you should approach things is more of like, get the person to think about things on their own, trust their intelligence, trust their ability to work things out. Like, because I'm one of those people that if I hear atheists say that like religious people or people that still have magical thinking, whatever, are stupid, I'm the first one to be like, no, they're not dumb. Because those of us that have deconverted and worked through all that stuff and logicked it out, we're there, you know, and we know that we're not stupid. We know that we're intelligent. It was just years of indoctrination, or, you know, not having the tools to critically think. You know,
exactly.
You know, and not, if you don't have that tool in your toolbox, how are you going to fix it? So, you know, and I find that, and you're not going to help people move over if you insult them.
Right. Or people are less willing to be vulnerable if you're in debate mode as well. Their guards go up. They want to protect their core beliefs, and people want to protect their core beliefs regardless of if they're in debate mode or not. But I think it even people dig their heels in more if they feel like they need to protect themselves and they're feeling threatened. So that makes perfect sense. And I actually think too, one could have critical thinking skills and still be religious. The thing is that it takes a long time to be able to apply critical thinking to your deepest parts of yourself, your core beliefs, things that are very meaningful to you, or just something like very deeply ingrained in you. Like you said, like indoctrination, like from childhood. It's going to take a lot to untangle a lifetime of I guess like reinforcement, right? That's kind of what indoctrination is. It's a lot of behavior reinforcement, punishment, that kind of stuff, little psychology stuff going on in there. So I guess you mentioned something I wanted to ask about. Also, even if you want to post the audience's questions in the chat for me so I can ask those as well. So I love that you're advocating that for religious people in the way that you were saying they're not stupid. I also can't stand when people say it's a mental illness, and
that drives me crazy.
Yeah,
it drives me crazy.
I'll stand up against that as well, because even I've always said, even if that were true, which it's not a mental illness, but let's just say hypothetically it were true, it's pejorative, and it wouldn't be helpful to say that to a person if you're trying to get them to change their mind. If you're like, oh, you're mentally ill, you're not a psychologist diagnosing them or trying to help them, you're putting them down. So I guess what are some ways that audience members could uplift someone who is going through deconstruction? Like, besides asking epistemological questions, what are some ways that you feel like someone could emotionally support someone going through this process? And what do you think are important tools that somebody who's deconstructing should have when dealing with society and family members who are, combative maybe with someone who's going through this process? Because I feel like I definitely I got kind of lucky because people were pretty gracious to me, but people can be kind of like hard on you when you're going through this process. So I guess if you have any like ideas of emotional tools that one could use or give to somebody else.
I think the major thing is be a safe place for people that are going through deconstruction. Like if you're an atheist and you have a friend or family member or coworker that knows that you're an atheist and they're coming to you with questions and they feel open enough to be like, like even if they're just like, well, I still believe in God, but the church that they're in is making them unhappy. They're seeing some problematic stuff or some stuff that they're not agreeing with, the message isn't a 21st century mindset, that sort of thing. Don't try to convince them to leave their faith, but what you want to do is kind of like, I'm using this as an example, like they still believe in God, but they don't like their church. Okay. Mm-hmm. How do you help someone reconcile those two? Do they completely leave the religion that they belong in? Like if they're Mormon, they might believe in like the Mormon tenets and their commandments and stuff like that, but they are uncomfortable in the church. So how do you help them reconcile the two? And basically my thing would be like, okay, well, if you could wave a magic wand, what would your ideal situation be? I kind of always start with that question because they already have an idea in their mind of what they would like the whole situation to look like. And then from there, work backwards. Okay. So you said that you still want to be a part of the Mormon faith. You still believe in God, but you want to walk out of the church. Okay. And then you work backwards. How's your family going to feel about that? Is your spouse, like if you're married, are you going to get backlash from your spouse? And then find out where their comfort level is in that process, because you don't want to because like those of us that have had really good support systems and had like a place to fall, it was much easier for us to like be like, well, this is all bullshit, I'm just done. But if your family, your friends, your community, like if you got your job through your religious community, that deconversion process and getting out of it is not going to be easy, because you could lose everything. You could lose your marriage, you could lose your kids, you could lose your financial support, all these different things. So you have to kind of do it like a risk benefit cost with people at sometimes, and then if it's something more minor where they're like, trying to reconcile like just morality, what does morality look like without God? That's a little bit of an easier topic to deconstruct, because it's not going to rip apart somebody's life. So you have to kind of gauge where the person is and always ask them questions, but always be empathetic. Because
like validate instead
exactly.
of pushing, because I mean, just to reinforce what you're saying, like when I was going through deconstruction, I was seeing a therapist, and like looking back on it as you're talking and relating it to my experience, my therapist at the time happened to be an atheist. Not that she pushed it on me. She validated my feelings, and she actually gave me a safe place to question things. And I think because she made it okay, kind of like being like a mother figure or something, making it okay for me to question, validating my experience, but not pushing me. She did drop a seed once when I was still a Christian, like, she said, I have always known that it's just all random. And I was thinking as a Christian, like, how could you know that? That's so arrogant, like but the way she could have, she was just talking, right? Like a person. So she may not have meant known, but she just always assumed that it was random. So there was that like seed there. But for the most part, it was just like validating my questioning and, feeling empathy for me. And I feel like that is one of the best things that you could do for a person, is like just be empathetic to their position, because even if you have never been indoctrinated or never been religious, I feel like there's a way that you could find to just say, your experience is hard, this is a grieving process, like, making the person feel like they are, again, valid in that experience. So that's really great. So what does a typical day, like being an ambassador for recovering from religion, look like to you, besides using epistemology? Is there other things that you would like to share with us?
So basically, like I haven't done a whole lot of like outside on the street and ambassadoring because of the pandemic and stuff like that. That's definitely something that I want to do. But it's a lot of what I kind of do online is basically just telling people about the resources that we offer, that we're 24/7, you can connect with us all over the world, and there's either you can chat in or call in, and there will be a trained agent there to kind of guide you through whatever issue that you're having, and also what's really wonderful about the way that RFR works is that if you're an agent and you are having a conversation with someone, there's usually someone that's listening in or watching the chat. And if you're struggling, you can like go in and be like, hey, I'm having this conversation with someone. Can you help me? Or can you grab a resource for me? So we have a really good support network underneath. Mm-hmm. And so like, if I'm doing I live in Florida. So let's say I wanted to go to like a festival, I could probably find another RFR agent that's close to me that we could go to an event together and kind of work together, and, trying to bring people to what we do and stuff like that. And basically we're just trying to get the message out, because like, even those, because and I know there are people sitting in pews in churches right now that are questioning. Mm-hmm. And some of them are probably atheists, but because of community or because of the connections that they made, they're not ready to leave, and they're still dealing with a lot of those inner struggles, mm-hmm. So my attitude is that no matter who I'm talking to, I'm going to be like, there's probably something, if you're quite like, especially if someone's going to approach you and they see recovering from religion, there's something in their brain that's going like, what is that? And if you approach it in a way that says, like, we just help people work, if you're dealing with doubt, you're dealing with questions about faith, and working those things out, this is a place you can go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically the main goal of RFR, is always pushing that you're not alone. You have a place you can go, because when you're doubting, like, you're not going to feel super comfortable going to your pastor, because your pastor is going to tell you that, like, not to doubt, or doubt your doubts, or whatever message that they give you, instead of helping you logically work through your doubts. So
yeah, and you got to be the person, like my therapist was to me, to make it okay. Like you've got to be that safe space. If that's what how you're choosing to get involved, it would be best to be that safe space for that person.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to say something too, because your therapist planted a seed. My brother planted a seed in me, because I converted from being Catholic to paganism, and my brother and I were on the phone maybe like 3 years ago, just, I was talking about paganism and stuff like that. And he said, if you hadn't been socialized in paganism, would you be pagan? And I was like, huh. And it was one of those light bulb moments that made me go, would I be pagan if I didn't have all this community of people that are reinforcing it on me, and, as part of my social group and all this type of stuff? And that was like one of my, like, trigger moments, this aha moment that started that deconstruction process.
Yeah. I had a similar, so this was like something that I stuffed down when I thought about it in college, but it was a critical thinking course. And it was like, if you had been born in somewhere in another country, like maybe in the Middle East, you would have a different religion. And I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, that's true. I was born here, and I'm a Christian. So is that just because but then I was like, no, because that would be the fallacy, right? Because the fallacy is just because you came to a conclusion fallaciously doesn't mean it's not true. So I was like, well, just because I was indoctrinated and born into America doesn't mean Christianity isn't true. And that's when I started looking for more, apologetics to kind of, oh, you're frozen for me. Oh no, it's back. Okay. More apologetics to kind of like justify my beliefs. And so I kind of deconstructed more of that. It was very slow for me though. I feel like it probably is it's probably a different timeline for different people, right? Because like some people, it could just happen all at once. They can kind of like pull it all apart. And then some people, it's like, like little nuggets that you find, and you're like, oh, I have to deal with this cognitive dissonance now. And so it's probably, you probably see a lot of different kinds of people going through this process in a very different way. Am I right?
Oh yeah, and it's really funny because like some people are like, even atheists come to us and they're just trying to deal with like a religious family member and like how to talk to them and stuff like that. Or you get someone that is like, well, I believe in God, but like the Holy Trinity I think is like bullshit. Like, how can you be born from a virgin, and that type of stuff, but they still want to believe in like a higher power, and they're trying to reconcile those two mindsets and stuff like that. So it's really interesting when we get people like in their 70s that are starting their deconversion process, and then we get like, teenagers, it runs the gambit of people that are just trying to work through these doubts they get into their brains and stuff, and it's really interesting, especially like, the older people, because of the age that we live in, and they, before like the internet and everything, it was like, hopefully you heard a radio program, or you read a book about someone that, or you watched like Cosmos with Carl Sagan back in the 70s, that that was explaining these scientific processes and stuff like that, or you got a good education that just break you out of it. But a lot of it was like your community was your church, and that's where you got your support and stuff like that. And then they get older, and they get introduced to all these new ideas, and older people that are also atheists, that must be a mind fuck. Like, there's people in their 70s that don't believe in God. What? And those sort of ways of thinking, because their community around them is all like, happy, I go to church and, and have their beliefs and stuff. And then they learn that, nope, you can be, old and not have any religious belief. And they start their deconstruction process later, which I find really, interesting, is because, like, most older people, like in my circle, like my parents, my mother-in-law, are still like religious people, so when I meet an older person, the boomer generation that aren't religious, I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. And because we have these perceptions of like older people being like very religious and going to church and going to like potlucks on Sunday and stuff like that, and then like that kind of broke me out of that thinking process too, that, oh, you know what, just because I have this perception of like a church goer doesn't mean that's the real perception of what's going on, and I think that helps a lot of people, that in that deconversion process, that all types of people are atheists, and also deconstructing that idea of an atheist, like what we really are, and we're just people that don't have a God belief.
Right.
That's all it is.
I know, because I think I even still kind of picture like a white dude with dark hair, like skinny, nerdy guy when I picture an atheist. Like, I don't picture me. Like, I feel like most people probably don't picture a Helen or an Autumn. They probably are picturing, I don't know, a sciencey guy. I don't know. I'm stereotyping now, but
like when I think of like an atheist, like Seth Andrews comes to my brain all the time, because he was one of the first people that I started listening to when I was going through that process. So whenever somebody says like, atheist, my brain just goes to like Seth Andrews, like this middle-aged white guy that's, very intelligent.
Smart. Yes, exactly. Yeah. So awesome. Well, is there anything coming up for you that you would like to let our audience know about before we go?
I don't personally. I know I'm going to be on secular sexuality on the ACA again sometime in July or August, and we're going to talk about raising sexually ethical children, but I don't know, that hasn't been scheduled yet. But the RFR is having a excursion, and I know that Ethan is going, and if he could post a link with the dates, because I forgot. I know it's in the fall in North Carolina. I was bad.
That's okay. Maybe while Ethan's pulling that up, for me, I guess just check out my YouTube channel, Notes from Autumn. My TikTok is also Notes from Autumn. Basically, any social media is Notes from Autumn. Very easy to find me. I'm also going on the line with Matt Dillahunty on the 13th. We're going to be taking calls. So if you have any theist friends or anybody that you would like to call in to talk to Matt or myself on the 13th on the Lines YouTube channel, it'll be on the Sunday show. Feel free to do that. And then next week, I'm going to be interviewing Roy Becker. So that should be super fun as well. Thank you so much for coming on with me, Helen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Also, if you want to connect with me at Recovering from Religion, first Sunday of the month, I do. If you go to meetup.com and go to Recovering Religion, we have all of our virtual online meetings that you can join. I co-host one the first Sunday of the month, so it'll be this Sunday. I co-host with my wonderful friend Stephen. So we have a virtual support group that you can join. And I try to do every Monday night our RFRX talks. And this coming Monday, the topic will be purity culture and the damage that it does and stuff like that. And if you chat or call in to Recovering from Religion, even if you just want to get information about any of the online events that we do, any of the recovery groups that you do, you can just talk to an agent and they can connect with that information as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel like you might have inspired me to look into getting involved with Recovering from Religion, because now I'm like, well, hey, maybe there's something I can do to help out as well. So I might look into it myself.
Yeah, and like you don't have to be an agent. Like I started off as an agent, but I've kind of moved into that ambassador space, and I'm doing different things. Like I monitor chat rooms, and I'm doing the ambassador stuff, and I'm like, I you do the virtual support group and stuff like that. So there's a whole plethora of different things. You can do tech stuff, if you're web tech savvy. So there's we will find a home for you. If you want to get involved and do something, we will find you a home. So
perfect. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like something right up my alley. So that would be really cool. Really cool. Awesome. Nice talking with you. And everybody have a great night.
All right. Have a good night.
Hey, Bandaid. Are you a good boy now? Yeah, you're a good boy? Say hi. Good boy.